And welcome everyone to day number 7, a Monday card here at Colonial Downs. August the 2nd as we officially start August, and we'll be running the entire month of August because closing day, of course, September 1st. Happy to be back with Jessica Paquette, our track analyst and handicapper. Jess, how are you up in Boston?
Oh, marvelous. How about you? How's Virginia waiting for me?
Virginia's waiting for you. It's lovely out. It's kind of a nice, quiet little Saturday as we're speaking, and of course, we'll talk. We always post these shows a couple of days in advance. The Wednesday one usually goes up Tuesday, so one day in advance. But give you guys a chance to hear things. But of course, weather scratches are a thing here in the Mid Atlantic, and so you definitely got to be nimble. You have to come in ready to go, but you have to be able to adjust on the fly. And you've had a few races where like your top picks just got gone.
And then you go back to the drawing board. That's one thing with horses. You just have to kind of go with the flow, think on your feet a little bit.
Well, let's dive into this 11 race card. Of course, we'll talk about the jump races. Those are run before our races. Now, Jill asked me again if you were going to call one. So what week do you want to call a jump race? Or
let's wait till we have a nice 6-horse field for a jump race.
The 11th race Monday.
Let's see how we're feeling. Maybe not this week. Maybe next week. I kind of need to ease into the idea a little bit.
I get it. I mean, Jill literally asked me in the racing app. She's like, "When's Jessica going to call?" I said,
"I love it. I'm in."
All right. Well,
I guess I'm in.
Yeah, we're gonna make you do that. And the good thing about a jump race is you got time. Like you just you get lost or you forget something. It's like you still got 3.5 minutes to.
Yeah, they're going around again.
Yeah, exactly. Let's start off just this Monday card. We start out on the main track. $10,000 maiden claimers. Not a lot of form of the ones that have run. Merv made the number 4, just pick one, a 7-5 heavy favorite. This one does have a start 4 back that would probably make this horse even money kind of thing, but subsequently not some great ones. I was thinking maybe you'd be going towards a first timer or somebody who with less experience in this race.
So there are 2 horses in this race. Really like might be overselling a little bit. This is a wide open race, I think. Yeah. I went with number Shaky, a debut runner. Looks conservatively spotted for his first start. And the way I handicap some of these lower level maiden claiming races is I prefer to find a horse that maybe has not disappointed yet. Yeah. At this point, Shaky could be a world beater. We don't know. We'll see on Monday. But I think he's conservatively spotted. One other horse I do want to talk about, and that is number 6, Scar the Man. I loved this horse in the paddock prior to his debut effort. He looks to me like a horse who actually wants to go long. He's kind of a long-bodied, big-bodied sort of horse. But the thing I liked most about him, and I don't know if this will really impact his ability as a racehorse, but for a first-time starter, he was just so mentally quiet. And there was a lot going on in the paddock that day. A couple of the youngsters were acting out a little bit, and he just kind of stood there taking it all in. And his attitude I thought was really interesting. He also looked like he was carrying a little bit of baby fat. We're not body shaming here. But he looked a little heavy. He's one I wonder if he does need a race or two to get fit.
The other thing too with the turf sprint, like I feel like when you start, he was off really slow, and when you spot him 10 lengths right off the bat, like unless you're really a world beater, like you're just not going to overcome that. And I know he passed a couple of tired horses, so maybe there might be a little something there, I guess. And certainly a better start can't do anything but help. We should talk about the 1 and the 4, who I think are going to be 2 of the horses take a little money. The 1's got a lot of speed from down on the inside, and have to think they're going to try to kind of send with that one. And the 4, I mean, I get why Merv made the horse the favorite. Just like I said, there's a couple efforts in there that are pretty decent, including the last one on the turf wasn't half bad.
Sure, that was a competitive effort. I wouldn't talk you off of this horse, but I really have a hard time taking, for me, 7-5 in a lower level maiden claimer. These are the races where wackier things can happen.
Well, especially, to me, when a race is wide open, the last thing I want to do is be on the lower priced ones. And I think you're onto something. I do think Shaky's going to take a little bit more money just because Ollie Figgins is a solid barn and is decent with first timers, is 14%, is 17% debut maiden claiming. And so I think some people are going to see that, and maybe kind of similar to how maybe you and I are looking at this race, kind of looking for alternatives to those favorite. But Jess, your picks in the first race?
7, 6, 1, and 5.
The second race, a turf sprint, and a lot of horses coming out of the Cavalier Cupid race, and they kind of all ran bad. It was, a lot of the ones that ran well did not come back. Obviously the winner's not going to come back in a maiden race, but this was another one where I kind of was assuming that you would be going towards a first time starter or somebody who maybe was, I'm just assuming you're going to a first time starter.
Well, I was handicapping, for full disclosure, I was
Yeah.
handicapping this card on Wednesday after
Yeah.
our races last week. And I don't know if you heard me in the other room. I like yelled wow out loud when I looked at the pedigree of number 3 Determined Star. I don't know if I've been this excited to see a horse in person all season. This horse is by Honor Code, who I had a major thing for when he was racing. I think he's the heir to the APND throne. But the female family on this horse, oh my goodness, the dam is a half sister to Giant's Causeway. I mean, this is the best bred creature we will see all season. I'm super excited to
Better
see
than
this.
Gina?
Even better than, I think, even better than Gina, to be
All right.
honest. But on par with, for sure.
Okay.
This horse might be a real racehorse, and I don't know. This is one you have to
Yeah.
see in the paddock, though, because physically that's going to really my decisions really on whether this horse can win this race is going to be based on how this horse looks. I have to think this is a horse that really is going to want to go a lot longer than this.
What's interesting too is that Phil Schoenthal, who trains that horse, same ownership group, they have the horse to the inside, the two, who's a $300,000 Tappet, and of course Tappet, you don't necessarily maybe think 5.5 on the grass, do you?
I think grass.
Okay.
And again, body type really matters, and for these young horses in these debut efforts, and they're just not going long on the turf yet for these first time starters. So some of them are just being put in these spots to get some experience. But it'll be interesting to see them in the paddock for sure. This is an interesting race.
Yeah, I mean, we put these shows out early because we want to give people a chance to listen to some just general thoughts and stuff. But really, I think the key thoughts we're going to have for the most part are going to be, as you get to see them, as we see the odds board and all that kind of things, because those things are just going to change. You've had a couple of horses where, you had them, I think, picked on top or second, and we're like, no, in the paddock, like, sorry, not anymore. And, that's part of adjusting on the fly as a handicap, because all we see right now is paper.
And again, what I see in the paddock is very subjective as well. I mean, my opinion, might not be the same as your opinion on a horse's appearance in the paddock. And horses will make a liar out of you in about, a minute and 12 seconds. Anyhow, there was a horse last week that you liked on paper, and I looked at in the paddock and I went, I don't like this horse at all. She looked dull, she was washed out, and then she wins.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's a humbling game. A couple of Trombetta firsters in here too. I thought just kind of I think the firsters can get all the attention because, like I said, I don't think any of the ones coming out of that Cavalier Cupid race really ran all that much. Heartlight ran fourth at 126-1, and again was still well beat. Cavalier Cupid was a decent winner, and Rampart I thought ran a good race, but they were way clear of everybody else. So also Rans, they can take turns kind of moving up, and so I never put like that much stock in a horse that runs fourth versus seventh when they're beaten 13 and 15. Like there's just not that much between them. But your picks for the second, Jess?
3, 1, 9, and 2.
Third race might look familiar because it is the DeHaas Stakes, and I want to say that it was redrawn, but it's the same post position order, so I'm guessing they just moved it to the next
carried it right over.
Yeah. So I mean, we certainly should still talk about it, right? It's I know Boldor was one that you kind of like. Were you on Just Might or were you on somebody else?
I was on Just Might on top. Okay. I think that, this horse is a truly graded stakes type runner. Yeah. But Boldor, I think, is just so interesting. I mean, not only does this horse have a race on the course, but I thought that performance at Monmouth, you really can't hold against this horse. This is one of those horses you have to wonder if maybe he needs a little more encouragement from the jockey that he isn't able to get at Monmouth. And I think he'll certainly get that here.
Yeah, there was just it was almost an anomaly that last one. But this horse does have a couple of races, but they were dirt races and stuff that were, really, really bad like that. And so you've talked about that a few times on the show, the ones coming in from Monmouth, it's just different circumstances there without the riding crop and, a few other reasons as well. But who else was I wanting to ask you about? There was somebody else I wanted to ask you. Oh, the 3 Mai Tai went on. Jane Sabelli, I know, had a couple over here. They had the one dirt horse who got boxed in and ended up running third. This one, the Mai Tai went on, is coming off a pretty nice win last time out. And, for a turf sprint, I mean, Uncle Romy down on the inside looks like it has some speed. Just Might certainly has some speed. Francatelli has a little bit of speed. It looks like there's enough of speed to go around in just a small field.
I agree, but you look at Mai Tai went on, and this is a horse who's just the poster child for consistency. I wouldn't talk you off of leaving this horse on a ticket in wherever you want to put him.
Your picks for the third?
5, 2, 3, and 4.
The fourth race on the card is the 5,000 non-winner of 2 since February 2nd. We're at a mile on the inner turf course. My heart, I always have, and I'm sure you do too, the non-winners of the year races, they're always kind of fun. They're a little bit of a class puzzle sometimes. If I remember right, Kickin' Boy, was he a horse you picked last time
Argentic.
It was Okay.
Argentic was. I mean, same trainer, same
That's what it
idea.
was. Neil Morris.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. But who should we start with in here? You go
I mean,
ahead
I'm
and start.
starting with Argentic, who I am a little stuck on. I really liked him last time. I have this theory that I'm testing this year about, these horses coming in with steeplechase form, going to the flat. It kind of is the similar theory of going from a route to a sprint. And I do think they are a little fitter and maybe a little bit sharper. And that worked out with Vincent Van Gogh. That was a nice winner the first week we raced. I liked this one last time. He turned in an okay effort, and I think he'll move forward maybe a little bit second start back on the flat. Neil Morris is an absolute delight to get to talk to down in the paddock, and he gives a lot of really interesting background about why he has some of his horses spotted where they are. So I do like to kind of then relay that to the public. So tune in for this one. I'm curious to see how he thought he ran last time.
Well, I know from calling the race, it was an honest pace. For a mile and a 16th, they went sub 23 and 46 and 1, and Uweri Sky and a couple others were up there battling. Uweri Sky was kind of the only one that hung around, but really Argentic was not far off that somewhat hot pace, because Elementary, who came with the late run, was well back and ended up getting up to win. So I almost upgrade the performance, just in the sense that it was not the easiest first part of the race. It made a little sense to me why the horse maybe faded, and Argentic, of course, going to be a very good price. Now Cluntia is another one with speed. There's a decent amount of speed actually in this race, and this one's taken a pretty steep class drop here from 12,500 to 10,500 now to 5,000, but not only 5,000, but restricted 5,000.
Yeah, I mean, these are live connections. That effort last time from him really was not very good. That was kind of enough for me to look elsewhere. I didn't use him in my ticket at all.
Did you have a Gunslinger in there anywhere coming down from Delaware? Yeah.
Another
one with speed.
He has some speed, and he really has not gotten back to that 2019, 2020 form, but he has shown kind of some flashes that he's heading in the right direction. And I think he'll be quick out of the gate. This is one that does seem to break well, so he'll be a factor out front. I'm not sure how, speed just has not been holding that well on the turf.
His last two races before that long layoff are so interesting. He went wire to wire, and then he moves up in class, and he comes from 9th, 10 lengths behind to win from off the pace. I feel like you just don't see that very often. But look at the opening quarter of the day he was 9th. It was 21-4 in a route race.
Yeah, he just kind of was like, no, thank you. I'm going to sit right off of that. Thanks very much.
And go ahead and win. Jess, your selections for the fourth event.
1, 9, 8, and 3.
Fifth race, we begin our 50-cent pick 5, and of course the 50-cent pick 5 a couple times has gone without being hit, but we pay 4 out of 5. So if you miss a leg and there's some bombs, don't toss the ticket on the ground, which I realize 90% of the tickets nowadays are online, so you can't toss them on the ground.
But there's something really satisfying about tossing your tickets.
I remember saying in my book that it's really the last acceptable form of littering.
You wrote a book. Tell us more about your book.
Southbound. You can find it, Amazon, all those places. But yeah, I always thought that was a good observation. I mean, pat myself on the back, but it is. It's like the last acceptable form of littering.
It is. And only vaguely acceptable, to be fair.
Yeah. Oh, believe me. Once I had to work in the front office operator, front side operations kind of stuff, and I had to pick up tickets. Believe me, I started hating everybody.
Sure.
Anyways, back to race number 5, maiden bred, and of course when you see the state logo here, it's for Virginia restricted, so that you'll see horses that are not Virginia breds, but that means they lived here for a while as younger folks. And
are we going to become Virginia restricted are we staying long enough?
I think it's 6 months.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
All right.
And we're 2-monthers here.
I'll keep my mass bred status.
I did see Mike Stidham with a firster drawn all the way outside. Did that one get any of your attention in this race?
That is number 10, Aurum, correct?
That's it.
And that is my top selection.
See, I'm learning you.
You're good. I am predictable. I think to a certain extent, you can kind of generally tell which direction I'm going to steer. The one thing this barn brings a lot of their young horses up to the paddock to school them. This is a world-class barn. They're doing a super job. This one's definitely worth a look in the paddock. Certainly a runner-early pedigree there as well. The dam was a Canadian champion. A lot of turf influence on both sides. So, I mean, checks a lot of boxes for a first-time starter.
I feel like the 9 is one of those horses, Amplio Esquema, who hits the board 8 out of 10 times, but it's just always going to be somewhat of a short price. 4-1, 4-1, 4-1, 6-1. And obviously, if you're playing underneath, you can think about putting the horse in. But just in terms of your pick 5s and stuff, this is just the kind I want to stay away from, because it just seems to always find a way to get beat.
Yeah, the 10 starts, I mean, certainly has ability, but at this
Yeah.
point has all of the trappings of a career maiden.
I'm really curious how the 7 Osa does that maiden 25. The Color Crush was like it was a really distinct turn of foot for a maiden 25, and I don't know yet if I mean the speed figure came back okay. I don't know if it was just the competition made it look really good or if Color Crush really just had a nice turn of foot. And so I'm kind of curious to see how that one goes out. The 6 Toss a Coin was one I thought was worth looking at just because, it was really not well behaved last time and started making up
Sure.
some ground. And so I thought an interesting long shot. But what were your total selections there in the fifth?
Total selections are 10, 3, 1, and 4.
All right. The sixth race on the card, we're 5.5 furlongs. We're on the outer turf. Again, the general rule of thumb here at Colonial Downs is routes, inner turf, sprints, outer turf. That will change. Like when they'll card usually a mile on a 3/16 turf, that'll be on the outer and stuff like that. But for the most part, that's kind of how that works. If you're just joining us and confused about inner and outer, but maiden special weight event, not the restricted kind, and so we see some I thought really nice horses in here. It's kind of a fun little race. The back half of the card, I think, is generally the case, is a bit stronger. I thought.
I went with number 6, Pulsar. Mike Tomlinson has been super live to start
Yeah,
the
yeah.
season. I mean, the horses are just all coming out and running really to form. This one's coming in off a little bit of a freshening on the shelf since February. I thought it was a good turf debut to an extent. This
Mhm.
horse showed some good speed, made a good step forward, proved he handles the surface, and cuts back to a sprint here. I don't think this is a horse that really wants to go 2 turns at this point.
Yeah, yeah. The debut was very good, and they claimed the horse out of the debut from Phoenix for 40,000, and so obviously, win here pays off a good chunk of that. What about I mentioned Ollie Figgins earlier, the 7 Dashing Circles horse who's been on dirt, has some speed. Both those efforts, they ran against Maiden 25, ran so good they jumped up to Maiden Special, and didn't hit the board, but was certainly competitive.
Now, I didn't use this horse, but it's some interesting turf pedigree there for
Mhm.
sure. City Zip, kind of out of a put it back mare, so you can really make a case. Definitely a sprinter type pedigree.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the 3 will get some attention just because it barely missed for Open Maiden Special on the grass last time out. There's speed from Wayne's Hope, who's a kind of cheap dirt speed though, so I don't know how that will equate to the turf. But your picks in the 6th race, Jess?
6, 3, 4, and 5.
7th race on the card, it's the Keswick Stakes, and seems like there's a lot. It's a turf race at 5 furlongs, so there's going to be a lot of speed, but there's a lot of dirt speed, and there's a lot of unknown turf speed, which I'm really curious to see kind of how plays out, because you see all these horses. I mean, like the 6 Fancier Up was 5 in front in a 4.5 furlong race. I mean, obviously this horse could cook early on. There's like 4 or 5 examples of horses who are very fast early on dirt now running on the turf.
And I went with a horse doing some unknowns, which is, a kind of a risky proposition for
Mm-hmm.
sure, especially with the young horse. But I went with number 1, Determined Truth. I like the vote of confidence from Phil Schoenthal, putting this horse as a maiden, taking on Stakes Company. That debut was good. Switching to the turf here, I think she just got some beneficial experience last time. Pedigree, really solid run early, 2-year-old type pedigree here. She's a half sibling to Grade 1 winning 2-year-old Perfect Alibi, who ran, I believe, 4th in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies. So a lot of class there.
Yeah, I'm just so curious to see kind of who makes the lead and who doesn't. Cavalier Cupid, who Merv made the 5-2 morning line favorite, I thought a very professional winner here back on opening day. In fact, I think it was the second race of the day. It was a big full field, but this one just kind of stalked nicely, kicked out. And again, Rambert, who's also in this race, they were way clear of everybody else. I just thought
And
it was
much the best.
yeah, I just thought it was a really professional effort. Sarah Nagel, I know, won a stake that same day
Yeah.
as well.
I used Cavalier Cupid as well, with on top of Rambert, so we're
Mhm.
kind of on the same page there.
All right, your picks for the Keswick.
1, 3, 4, and 7.
This might be my favorite stakes name of the meet, the Hickory Tree Stakes. I don't know why, it just sounds kind of neat. But obviously the Keswick for the 2-year-old fillies at 5.5 furlongs. This one for the 2-year-old boys at 5 furlongs. And kind of again, you're going to see a mix of first-time stars, a lot of horses with second-time stars, a few that have shown good dirt form, including the 7 Locomotive. Graham Motion has one in here who was, I feel like this horse is going to take a lot of money. It's Sean Feld's horse too, by the way, Evan Harlan, just because,
Yeah.
a good debut at Belmont is just going to carry a lot of weight with bettors, I think.
Terrific pedigree on Evan Harlan. The dam's have to like Grade 1 winner, Miss Temple City. So insanely good pedigree. Yeah. I went with in a different direction here. Number 3, Wow, What a Summer. This might be my strongest opinion on the card.
Yeah.
Got the maiden win by disqualification last time out, and it was one of those DQs that Twitter had a lot to say about. It was kind of, it was an iffy DQ. But that doesn't take anything away from how good this horse looked in the paddock and how well this horse ran. This horse was the physical standout, not only I think that I saw all day, that I saw all week.
Mm-hmm.
He's just an exquisite specimen. He ran to his looks, and I think he has a super bright future ahead of him.
Yeah, I try not to agree or disagree with Stewart's decisions at tracks I call out, because I'm kind of just the messenger, but I certainly saw why they made the disqualification.
Yeah.
Carol Cedeno's horse, this horse was kind of out in the clear in the 3-path. Carol Cedeno's horse came out and bumped it off stride a little bit. So it ends up going 4 or 5 wide and then misses by, a neck or something, I think, or half length.
Sure. Yeah, it was a really, for a young horse to have that sort of adversity and then run on as well as he did. Yep. I think that he gained so much more out of that race than just a maiden victory.
Yeah, excited to see, and it because it's a restricted race. It's like running for 100,000.
Why not?
Obviously, and if you lose, you still have the maiden condition left, and it's not like you're throwing the horse to the wolves in terms of a graded stake or something like that. Any of the firsters, Mr. Jefferson, I know looked like had a kind of a nice work tab. Phil Schoenthal's got an Animal Kingdom. Any of those ones kind of hit your radar?
I used Mr. Jefferson as well.
Okay. Your picks for the 8th race?
3, 10, 4, and 5.
So the motion one you did have on there though for second.
Of course.
Okay.
Have to use them somewhere.
If I remember right, Sean Feld was very involved with Miss Temple City, so it makes sense that they're all tied in there in ownership. The 9th race on the card. As always, we end with the maiden claims. Not always, but seems quite regularly. And I actually have one in here I really like, so I'm curious if you used it or not. But wide open field of 13. Where did you land?
So this is going to be a race where you have to pay attention earlier in the card, I think, to judge. Because I'm really curious as to how that Color Crush race stacks up. I used Reina de Verano on top, but I could change my opinion if Osa runs really poorly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Pepper Pot also coming out. Pepper Pot to me was the disappointment in the last race. Was the favorite, kind of loomed up like she was going to run a big one and then flattened out. And she's had a lot of chances to win. And so she's kind of honestly a lower priced horse that I would be fading in this spot. Reina de Verano, that was not the greatest of trips and still did kind of run on a little bit.
I also like number 8, Joy in Jerusalem. Crazy good female family. Dam is out of a half sister to Serena's Song. And pedigree does. It only takes you so far, but sometimes it's something to talk about when you don't really have that much to say off of their form. I like that she's had a little bit of time to mature, and maybe that's what this horse needed.
Well, and adding blinks and adding Lasix, and in my experience being here for a few years now, Susan Cooney horses generally are not all that ready early on. Like she usually takes a few starts to get going. But that being said, she's a very low percentage first time starter, second time starter trainer, but she's 10% overall. So she, they do pick up some steam, and maybe this one now, obviously.
Yeah, they just come in the paddock a little green, and I think that translates to the racetrack for them. They need a few starts.
I wanted to mention the number 12, You Never Call, who ran at Tampa and had a really easy uncontested lead, but this was more of a visual thing. It was a maiden special weight event. It was a washed off. The horse that won, Irazu, they were kind of running away from everybody else, which to me, that's always a hint that, Irazu obviously got a nice speed figure out of it and might be something better than, not a stakes horse, but might be really good. But anyways, but this horse I thought just ran a very credible race that day. It seemed like a big turnaround for that horse when it did stretch out. If you look back, the only other mile race was a Tampa on the grass, and the horse almost won. And so I think a big player in here is the number 12. But who were your top 4 here in the 9th?
5, 6, 8, and 7.
The 10th race on the card, again, the jump races are run before, so we run them at 12:15 and 12:50, I believe they are. They're non-betting races. You can watch them on stream, but we definitely want to give them a shout. A field of 9 in the first of the events, and it's a maiden race, which again doesn't mean they're necessarily maidens in the flats, but they are maidens in the jumps.
Number 8, I went with number 8, Swim on Connections here. Carrie Brion recently saddled a grade 1 winner at Saratoga. This is a barn really worth following on Twitter as well. She gives a lot of behind the scenes videos and photos of her training of the steeplechase horses, and it's very interesting. You could definitely learn something giving her a follow. Up and coming Parker Hendricks will be aboard. We saw him win the first race of the meet. So a lot of strong connections here.
Now the horse hasn't finished either of the last 2. Is that concerning? Because it's been eased pretty early.
I think this is a horse that may be trying to figure out this job. I'm
Okay.
willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. I
Yeah.
also do like number 6 Westerland because I am a big fan of Frankel, and the idea of one of them jumping is very exciting to me as someone looking for a sport horse.
All
So
right.
Westerland is very interesting to me.
Bred by Juddmonte. Wow. Big names.
Oh, the names get bigger. Don't worry. Wait till we get to the next race.
Well, let's get to the next race, the 11th race, the 6-horse field, the one you could be calling, but I don't think you're going to this week. Maiden event, $30,000 purse for maiden 4-year-olds. So I rarely see the 4-year-old restricted.
That is sort of an interesting condition. Number 4, Queen's Empire. This horse was bred to be, I mean, endlessly good. Out of graded stakes winner Crown Queen. That makes Crown Queen was a half to champion Royal Delta, as well as Delta Prince and Kozan. This one didn't really pan out on the flat, but he seems to have shown a lot of talent in his only try over fences, which just goes to show good breeding, athleticism can kind of translate to any job. And to get on a soapbox a little bit, that's why off the track thoroughbreds make such great sport horses. They are bred to be athletes, and then they can kind of do just about anything if they can take to the job.
Boy, they gave up on this one fast though. Debut for maiden special, next time out 10,000 for Bill Mott, but won.
But one, I think there was probably some interest in this horse, as a horse over hurdles.
Yeah, well, and obviously a gelding. I would probably guess the gelding happened either before or after the that first career start.
Which my question is, why did you geld? That's probably my biggest question is, what did this horse do to deserve getting gelded? Because Kozan also, was not really accomplished on the racetrack, but got to go to stud. Mm-hmm. He showed a lot of brilliance and talent, but he didn't hold up. Yeah. Whereas this one must have been a menace for them to have to do brain surgery so early.
Say they're gone now, never coming back.
Never coming back on a roof somewhere.
Your picks for the 11th.
4, 3, 5, and 2.
All right. Again, live racing continuing at Colonial Downs, 1:45 p.m. first post time, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, all the way through September 1st. This is week 3 of 7. So we're nearing the halfway point, but starting to see just a lot of the horses. We saw a few come back last week. I think we'll certainly see more of those this weekend, especially next week, kind of getting to see familiar faces again, where it's not just 120 horses we've never seen before. So, but anyways, we'll see you guys back. Hit the subscribe button if you want to get the shows delivered right to your YouTube page. We'll see you guys back tomorrow. Good luck today.